Hello everybody! Happy Wednesday afternoon. My name is Elise and welcome to my tea table. We've got an exciting Constitution study group today, as we do on every Wednesday afternoon. Unfortunately, missed last week because we were streaming from the nightclub and bar show plus World Tea Expo. Lots of great memories made last week. If you were here for that, thank you so much for being here for that. But today we are going to be reading an article from NPR News, an article I came across today that is looking at, it's kind of like a profile of somebody from history that was kind of instrumental in interrupting a lot of progress that was made for reproductive rights, for women's rights, and kind of feeling like today's conversation in the article that we'll be looking at will kind of branch off into other conversations, particularly around the constitutionality and the right or the method that can be used by politicians or by other powers that be that can classify something as being obscene, right? Because that's the basis of this movement from the late 19th century that did impede on a lot of the progress made for reproductive rights. I'm going to go ahead and I think I want to get my overhead cam a little smaller. I'm going to prep some tea to drink. I want to drink some tea. I actually make myself smaller too. Hey Shiloh, how are you doing? I hope you were able to catch some of our coverage, some of our interviewing and fun from the World Tea Expo. If not, don't worry, you can go see all the video replays either on our YouTube page or on Twitch. I have made highlight videos of the entire video from each day on our Twitch channel, which you can visit at tealet.tv. But yeah, I'm gonna drink some cold brew tea simply because I've got a lot left over. We made a bunch of cold brew ice cubes, which is what I got here. I have some beautiful ice cubes made from cold brew moonshine tea. Moonshine is a tea from Elam, Nepal. So I'm gonna drink the cold brew. I have some ice cubes. It's a very hot day here in Vegas, so you might see me sweating just a little bit. It's warm out, and there's no central cooling in this warehouse. Just the swamp cooler and the fan. See, the ice is already melted, just a tad, just a little bit of. Get this in an angle everybody can see that. Just a little bit of it is melted. That's okay. That's okay. Got my cold brew here. I'll show you how simple cold brewing is. This is a gallon of water. The tea leaf was just added in. We typically do 15 grams to a gallon of water. So that's the ratio that we usually work with. You can see the tea leaves are still in there. Very simple. This is just a simple, supposedly spring water. Actually I should use the strainer, try to keep this clean. I got my strainer here. Keep out those tea leaves. Oh, I'm sweating. It's a good thing I'm wearing like my running clothes. I'm going to be going I'm going to be going for a run. Well, isn't that interesting? Look at that. I've never had that happen. You see that collected? It collected on top. I don't know what that's about. I really don't know what that was about. Does it mean that this strainer here is is it because the liquid is so cold? Because there's holes here. There's no reason why. I don't know. No reason why I should have held back. Let's see if it works now. Okay, so there it goes. It's working now. That was weird. It was like there was some kind of weird film on it, or maybe it was because the tea was so cold. yummy, frosty, beautiful cold brew tea. This is I don't know. I hate saying it's technically any type of tea. It's technically a hybrid green oolong white tea. You know, it is steamed, so that's, you know, the kill green, that's the green in it. But it is rolled, so there is, you know, some oxidation that happens. But then they use the very highly pubescent tippy part. Hi, Tristan. Welcome to the stream. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Got these beautiful crystal mugs. It does say Burger Bar on it. This is my friend's business. These are like leftover. I think he just shut his business down, so I have nice cold brew drinking glasses. So yeah, I won't be brewing tea today. I think I'm just going to be continuing to drink all this cold brew tea before it goes bad, because, you know, tea doesn't really go bad, but you will notice it start to get cloudy. You know, it may taste a little different, so you do want to try to drink it within 2 or 3 days of making it. Cool. Even Bitcoin's back here hot. He's wanting, well, you know what? I got some cherries over here. He's waiting for some cherries. Bitcoin doesn't have the platform to sit up here with us anymore. And as always, music provided by our good friend Justin Anderson. Sojourner, Sojourner, Sojourner. He is on TikTok, so if you wanna hear some good music on TikTok, check out Sojourner LV, Las Vegas. He's based here in Las Vegas. Without any further ado, let's get a little studious here. All right, let's see if I got this. Oh, I got it. Oh, my camera. See, I didn't even check my camera here. I got cut off. Let me fix that real quick for y'all. It is a hot day in Las Vegas. Hey, Nian, thanks for coming by. My name is not Julia. My name is Elise. I think I know the Julia you're thinking of. Like your friend Julia in Minnesota. All right. Get myself more centered here now. All right. So again, we're reading an article from NPR News that Bitcoin can sip some tea. I don't know, he's not into it. He's never been into sipping the tea. He did have a nasty habit of breaking into our bags. Hey, how's it going? Sean, for your page? Good to meet you. Much love. Here, aloha. Aloha. Yeah, he had a nasty habit of getting into like packets of gyokuro at one point, which was a very costly habit for us to face here at the tea warehouse, because that is an expensive tea. And it wasn't like spent leaves. Like, he was getting into like brand new bags, like 100-gram bags of the gyokuro. Yes, that's my name, Elise. Come on, everybody. Say hi. Come say hi. He's just chilling up here on stage with me. I shouldn't say chillin', because there's not a whole lot of chillin' happening in this warm warehouse. But yeah, he's always happy to sit in my lap. I guess this is going to be his new spot, just sitting in my lap. Yeah, you like it? You like it, boy? Oh, I know. Julia. So yeah, Julia, she's got a tea business, a tea shop in Minneapolis, I believe. Yeah, very far from me. I'm in Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Alright, I'm going to start reading. How an anti-vice crusader sabotaged the early birth control movement. So this is like a story from the past. But there's some like relevant themes in this story that I think will kind of spin off into the conversation that we'll end up having today. Published today, it was on a show on NPR called Fresh Air. I've never listened to this show. It's a 37-minute listen. I'll go ahead and put it in the in the chat. So if you want to, Bitcoin's down. No longer in frame, sorry. He's just right here. Okay. It's a 37-minute listen, but it's a short article. We'll just read it real quick, and I've got some other resources for us to visit after we finish this one. In 1873, Congress passed a law outlawing... Hey, Shiloh. Bitcoin Shiloh's in front of us now. Whee! So sweet. Congress passed a law outlawing the distribution, sale, mailing, and possession of obscene materials, including contraception. Right, so this story is about contraception, specifically birth control. The Comstock Act, as it became known, was named after Anthony Comstock, an anti-vice crusader who later became a special agent to the U.S. Post Office, giving him the power to enforce the law. In her new book, The Man Who Hated Women, author Amy Sohn writes about Comstock, as well as 8 women charged with violating the Comstock Act. While working for the post office, Sohn said Comstock decoyed people by using the mail to solicit obscenity in contraception. Interesting. Comstock was given that post office title so that he could have the power to inspect the mail, and over time it was expanded to be able to come into people's houses and seize items. Could you imagine? It was a very broad definition of what someone affiliated with the post office could do with regards to individual civil liberties. Man, of all of the offices to be infringing on our civil rights is the post office. Over time, the scope of Comstock law expanded. Its heart was in the mail, but it became much broader than that. Even oral information, which reasonable people believed was constitutionally protected, turned out it wasn't. In 1916, feminist activist Emma Goldman was arrested in New York City just before giving a lecture on family planning. 1 year earlier, birth control advocate Margaret Sanger had been charged with violating the law. Goldman and Sanger were just 2 of the 8 women profiled in Sohn's book. Others include nurses and health practitioners, spiritualists, and women in the so-called free love movement. The Comstock Act lasted until 1965, when the Supreme Court ruled it violated the right to marital privacy. It was in Griswold versus Connecticut that married women could finally have the right to receive contraception from their doctors. As for single women, they didn't get the same rights until 1972, with Ernstad versus Baird ruling 99 years after the passage of the Comstock Act. Yeah, so contraception, birth control was considered obscene. So here are the other forms of birth control. So, you know, if you couldn't get the other, what was the bill? The pill wasn't even invented until like the 1940s, right? But in 1870s, when the Comstock Act first came out, they had sponges. A very common form of birth control that many women used was vaginal douching, which were syringes. And you could use them for health and hygienic purposes, but they would also put various substances in them. Acidic substances that were said to have spermicidal qualities. How dangerous that is. And we're worried about, you know, some obscenity in a pill, or, you know, something that has been medically proven, and these women are just like using acidic compounds. The rhythm method, is the rhythm method just like tracking your cycles like the natural method? Is that it? Also the rhythm method, although they did not understand the rhythm method, and so the times that they were abstaining from actually the worst possible times to abstain and withdrawal, which was sometimes successful and sometimes not successful. Okay, so yeah, we know about that form of contraception, sure. So that's interesting. You know, you think that like the rhythm, we've talked about this on stream before, not through the Constitution Study Group, but through Best Life Fridays. We've talked about, what's going on, Bitcoin? Getting comfortable? We've talked about natural tracking of the ovulation cycles as a form of contraception, just generally as a form of female empowerment. So it's kind of crazy that in 1870 it wasn't well-known information for women. I mean, I can understand for men, but for women especially, it's your own body. You can't. Jeez. But I get it now. I mean, now even having this conversation with my friends and peers, for a lot of women, it is, still a surprise for them to learn about their own bodies. So, because it's obscene. It's obscene. We're going to get onto that later. Like, who determines what is or isn't obscene? I don't know. So, on how Comstock became obsessed, what he considered smut. Well, he was born in a small rural area called New Canaan, Connecticut, and it was the kind of town where you knew everybody and you knew everybody's business. And his parents were very religious. He was raised Congregationalist. And after the Civil War, he moved to New York, and he lived in a house with other men called a boarding house. And New York at the time was dominated by what was called sporting culture, where all the entertainment was tailored towards these young single men, most of whom were living apart from their families for the first time. So where there were billiards and boxing and pretty waiter girl saloons, and he was exposed to all of this and was just absolutely disgusted. How obscene. He had trouble finding men of similar religious thinkings, and so that was when he decided to do something about it. But the real precipitant to his becoming an anti-smut, anti-vice activist was he had a co-worker at his dry goods store who told him that he had visited a prostitute and become diseased and corrupted. Comstock became convinced that the reason this guy had gone to a prostitute was because he read dirty books. So he went to the store where the books were sold and called the police, and that was the beginning of his career as a vice hunter. What? That's a career? Oh my goodness. Could you imagine if this was a thing that could exist on TikTok? I mean, I guess there is. There's probably accounts of people that, take it upon themselves to judge and smoke out all the vice and all that smut. I don't know. Just a sad thing. Just a sad place we're at. So the penalties for sending contraception or information about it through the mail. Let's find out what this guy actually did when he was working at the post office. They could be up to $5,000, which would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars today, and either 5 to 10 years of hard labor. So these fines, when they were able to get the convictions and these sentences, absolutely ruined people's lives and didn't just cut off their ability to make a living, but frequently sent them into poverty and completely out of business and sometimes prison. One of the fascinating things about Comstock and the women that he went after, I focus on 8 women that he pursued, is many of them were middle-aged and older, some as old as their late 60s. And so given what lifespans were at that time, to be a 67-year-old woman facing a 10-year prison sentence, you're almost certain you were going to die in prison. And that's why some of the women he went after and was able to prosecute took their own lives. That's sad. So on what the free love movement was like back in the 1800s. The free love movement was this idea that there should be equality in romantic relationships. A lot of people here fear free love and they think of like Woodstock and the Summer of Love. It's not about having sex with as many partners as you could. Most free lovers were monogamous. The heart of it was better equality, better division of domestic tasks, and the idea of abolishing marriage laws that 2 people should be able to enter into their own romantic contracts, which should not be legal. Most free lovers were opposed to abortion except in extreme cases. Oh, that's interesting. So, I mean, that could have been one of the waves of feminism. But they were against abortion. Interesting. But what's interesting about the free lovers is that they were civil libertarians, and many of them were also extremely leftist in their ideas about economics. For example, they felt that too many men and women were marrying for economic reasons. Women needed money, and then they would marry men that they didn't love. They wanted all relationships to be based on love and mutual respect. The most radical thing that they believed is that if a man and a woman really loved each other, they would give birth to superior children. That's kind of interesting. So was that the case when they were okay with abortion? When it was done not in love? Hey, June. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for saying cool. Alright, so let's see the connections to relevant times now. Certainly now that we see these reproductive rights already being chipped away, and I'm lucky to live in a state like New York, which is trying to protect abortion access no matter what happens with Roe. But yes, I think the biggest thing, though, is that I have a teenage daughter, and so I think about the generations into the future and what is a post-Roe landscape going to look like. And from what I understand, we're going to have even more so than we already do today, a real two-tiered system where your access to abortion is going to rely heavily on where you happen to live. And the reason that it saddens me is Roe was decided precisely to stop that from happening. And the other reason it fills me with dread is that it was essentially what Anthony Comstock created, a two-tiered system, which was that even after the passage of the Comstock Law, you could get what was called a medical exemption or a therapeutic exemption if you were wealthy and if you could find your way to having abortions. But women who don't have that kind of access couldn't. Yeah, and so that's a common criticism now is a lot of the access to this thing is to a lot of things that are considered illegal, like let's take freaking cocaine for instance. Like that is something, if you go into like high powered political circles, high wealth circles, you're going to see a lot of cocaine usage. And you're going to wonder, hey, aren't drugs illegal? Yeah, but you know, if you're wealthy enough to live that cocaine lifestyle, cherries are good. So, I did a little Google search. Quick one. Oh, that's funny. Let me turn this off. I turn like the green screen on for the articles. This is kind of hard to read, isn't it, huh? Interesting, it's picking up all those lines. But yeah, this is from PBS News, another source of news that, you know, I look into often. Find it to be quite impartial for what it can. Hey Dawn, what's going on? Happy Constitution Study Group. Cheers. Hello, Bessa. Good to see you. Happy Wednesday, or yeah, it's Wednesday for you still. Probably early morning, huh? Maybe it's Thursday for you. Morning from China. I hope you're doing well. We're talking about obscenities today. Dawn, this is right up your alley. You like obscenities, right? I'm sure you have some experience in that realm. Probably not what you consider to be obscene, but maybe what someone else is considered to be obscene. And that's what we're talking about today. Is how do we like judge? And like, especially when it comes to like Supreme Court cases and laws, you know, the last article I just looked at was a law called the Comstock Act from the late 1800s that banned the distribution of obscene materials, specifically through the post office. So they were looking through your mail. They were looking through everything. This guy even had like the ability to. I'm not brewing tea today. I'm just drinking tea. I've got some cold brew. This is a green tea from Nepal. I've been brewing it over the past few days in this bottle. Just a little bit left, so that's the tea at the bottom and the water. The water there. Reminds me I should drink some more. Simple. Very crisp. Very delicious. Oh, that's the end of it. I drank it all. I drank it all. That's it. All right, so let's get back. Let's understand the constitutionality of what is or not obscene. What is obscenity? Yeah, green tea from Nepal. It's actually got a roll on it with a light oxidation, and they use the very tippy, young, supple shoots only. So the tea actually looks and kind of tastes like a white tea. But there was a steaming Kilgreen step, so, kind of a green tea as well. Seeing the color, it's got a little bit of everything going on. My big mug of tea is delicious. Yeah. Really yummy. In the United States, freedom of expression, artistic and otherwise, is ultimately governed by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. This guarantee of freedom of speech has been articulated in numerous Supreme Court cases, which play an important role in the history of freedom of artistic expression. Here are a few of the more important decisions. You know what? Let's just get over. Look at this one. Obscenity convictions constitutional. In 1957, in Roth versus United States, the court determined that prosecution for possession or distribution of obscene material is lawful, and that obscene speech is not protected under the Constitution. I'll read that again. The court determined that prosecution for possession or distribution of obscene material is lawful, and that obscene speech is not protected under the Constitution. So this is 1957, about 60 years after that original law, the Comstock law that we read in the other article, was first passed. They doubled down on it, saying not only are the materials, that could be propagating out this information, but even speech that is considered obscene is not protected under the First Amendment. Hi, Erica. Good to see you. Sam Roth, a publisher and distributor of magazines and books, had been indicted in 1954 for using the mail to advertise and distribute material with sexual content. Notably, Aubrey Beardsley's Venus and Tannhauser. Her conviction was upheld. Or his conviction, I'm sorry, was a gentleman. Roth was a gentleman. I'm going to look this up. I'm not going to do it publicly here. Maybe, if it's interesting enough, I will. I'm going to do it on my own little side screen. And they said the Supreme Court said it was obscene, so... What? I mean, this is some Greek mythology porn or something. I'll just read the first thing right here. What is the story of Tannhauser? The minister singer Tannhauser, having spent a year in the magical underground realm of Venus, the goddess of love, longs to return to the human world. He pays tribute to Venus in a song, but ends by asking her to let him go. On hearing her name, Tannhauser understands what he must do and joins his companions. Oh, so it's like an opera. A German knight. sorry, I'm really curious about this. I mean, geez. Really obscene, you know, mythological porn going on here. Oh well. The three-prong test for obscenity is established. In 1973, in the most important case on freedom of expression, Miller versus California, the court established the three-pronged test for obscenity. All right, this is going to be our test. You know, I may as well just put this into my content. It still applies today. The case concerned bookseller Marvin Miller's conviction under California obscenity laws for distributing illustrated books of a sexual nature. In Miller, the court's decision stated that obscene material is not protected by the First Amendment, and that such speech may be regulated by the state under certain circumstances. In order to meet the definition of obscene material articulated in this case, 3 conditions must be set. First, whether the average person applying contemporary community standards would find that the work, taken as a whole, appeals to the prurient interest. Okay, and just for your reference, prurience means having or encouraging an excessive interest in sexual matters. This is a clusterfuck. Okay, so the second part of the test, whether the work depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual context specifically defined by the applicable state law. So now every state is going to have to create their own sexual conduct rules. And the third part of the test is whether the work, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Well, damn, that's just subjective. Right? Isn't art subjective? Can't people say that everything is art? All things is art? I mean, that just seems futile. This, what's it called? The three-prong test? Three-prong test. You can fail and pass every time. The court also determined that a jury may measure the essentially factual issues of prurient appeal and patent offensiveness by the standard that prevails in the forum community and need not apply a national standard. This establishes a role for the community in making decisions about obscene material. Obscenity is a narrow category describing materials that meet all 3 prongs of the definition above. Such material, even if some describe it as art, may be deemed obscene and banned by the state. So yeah, they already addressed that. Oh yeah, some people will call it art, but we don't like it. It makes us feel uncomfortable. Indecency is a broader term encompassing material which does enjoy some measure of constitutional protection, but may still be restricted. For instance, some might find violent images objectionable, even though they do not appeal to prurient interest and thus are not obscene under Miller. Just remember, the whole reason why we're talking about this is because contraceptives, and materials about contraceptions and about fertility health were considered obscene and were considered illegal. And was grounds for people to be busting into other people's houses to confiscate those materials. No three-pronged test for indecency exists, and although the court has considered cases involving the arts and proposed standards of decency, the issues of what such standards mean and how they are applied have not been resolved. Alright, so now they've got a case here. School book selection covered by First Amendment. In 1982, after years of appeals, the Supreme Court ruled in Board of Education versus PICO that local school boards may not remove books from the school library shelves simply because they dislike the ideas contained in those books and seek by their removal to prescribe what shall be orthodox in politics, nationalism, religion, or other matters of opinion. The case was brought by students opposing a directive made by the Island Trees School District in Levittown, New York, ordering the removal of books considered anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Semitic, and just plain filthy from school libraries. So, is this saying that the schools, the Department of Education was the first, or the Board of Education was the first organization that was told that they can't be policing what is obscene or not? I don't know. In 1997, in Reno versus ACLU, the court found the Communications Decency Act, passed by the U.S. Congress in 1996 and designed to protect minors from harmful material on the internet, unconstitutional, ruling that the act abridged the First Amendment. That's interesting. Prurient. I had no idea what that word meant. I learned a new word today. Let's see. I want to check out this one. This one from 1996. Protecting the kids on the internet. Good for them. The Communications Decency Act of 1996 was the U.S. Congress's first notable attempt to regulate pornographic material on the internet. The act is the short name of Title V of the Telecommunications Act of 1996. The amendment that became the CDA was added. First, it attempted to regulate both indecency and obscenity in cyberspace. I haven't heard that word in a long time, cyberspace. Welcome to cyberspace. We're here in the spaces of cyber. It's been interpreted to say that operators of internet services are not publishers and thus not legally liable for the words of third parties who use their services. That's interesting. So it took liability away from the service providers. All right. The Act's most controversial portions were those relating to indecency on the internet. The relevant sections were introduced in response to fears that internet pornography was on the rise. Yeah, I don't think it's let up. Indecency in TV and radio broadcasting have already been regulated by the Federal Communications Commission. Broadcasting of offensive speech was restricted to hours of the day when minors were supposedly least likely to be exposed, and violators could be fined and lose their licenses. But the internet had only recently been opened to commercial interest by the 1992 amendment of the National Science Foundations Act, and thus had not been taken into consideration by previous laws. The CDA, which affected both the internet and cable television, marked the first attempt to expand regulations to these new media. Passed by Congress on February 1st, 1996, signed by Clinton, thank you. Knowingly uses an interactive computer service to send to a specific person or persons under 18 years of age, or uses any interactive computer service to display in a manner available to a person under 18 years of age any comment, request, suggestion, proposal, image, or other communication that, in context, depicts or describes in terms patently offensive as measured by contemporary community standards, sexual, excretory activities, or organs. So that's the nipples. That's why Facebook and Instagram decided they won't let us see nipples. It further criminalized the transmission of obscene or indecent materials to persons known to be under 18. Free speech advocates worked diligently and successfully to overturn the portion relating to indecent but not obscene speech. They argued that speech protected under the First Amendment, such as printed novels or the use of 7 dirty words, would suddenly become unlawful when posted online. Critics also claimed that the bill would have a chilling effect on the availability of medical information. Online civil liberties organizations arranged protests around the bill, such as the Black World Wide Web protest, which encouraged webmasters to make their sites' backgrounds black for 48 hours after its passage. All right, let's see some of the legal challenges that have happened since the passing of this law. On June 12, 1996, sorry, we're not going back that far, just a couple of decades, a panel of federal judges in Philadelphia blocked part of the CDA, saying it would infringe upon adults' free speech right. The next month, another federal court in New York struck down the portion of CDA intended to protect children from indecent speech as too broad. In June of 1997, the Supreme Court upheld the Philadelphia court's decision in Reno versus ACLU, stating that the indecency provisions were an unconstitutional abridgment of the First Amendment because they did not permit parents to decide for themselves what material was acceptable for their children, extended to non-commercial speech, and did not carefully define the words indecent or offensive. In 2003, Congress amended the CDA to remove the indecency provision struck down. A separate challenge to the provisions governing obscenity, known as Nitkay versus Gonzalez, was rejected by a federal court in New York in 2005. The Supreme Court summarily affirmed that decision in 2006. Congress has made 2 narrower attempts to regulate children's exposure to internet indecency since the Supreme Court overturned the CDA. Court injunction blocked enforcement of the first, the COPA, Child Online Protection Act, almost immediately after its passage in 1998. The law was later overturned. While legal challenges also dogged COPA's successor, the Children's Internet Protection Act in 2000, the Supreme Court upheld its constitutionality in 2004. I want to know this is kind of an interesting little offshoot. So the combined FOSTA-SESTA package passed in the House in February 2018. So this is like the most recent of the bills associated with this topic. And Donald Trump signed it. The bill makes it illegal to knowingly assist, facilitate, excuse me, this topic. Oh man. It's got me all worked up. Okay. Well, the bill makes it illegal to knowingly assist, facilitate, or support sex trafficking and amends the Communications Decency Act safe harbors, which make online services immune from civil liability from their users' action to exclude enforcement of federal or state sex trafficking laws from immunity. The intent is to provide serious legal consequences for websites that profit from sex trafficking and give prosecutors tools to protect their communities and give victims a pathway to justice. The bills were criticized by pro-freedom speech and pro-internet groups as the disguised internet censorship bill that weakened the Section 230 safe harbors, places unnecessary burdens on internet companies. Hey Marie, much love. And intermediaries that handle user-generated content or communications, with service providers required to proactively take action against sex trafficking activities, and requires lawyers to evaluate all possible scenarios under state and federal law, which may be financially unfeasible for a smaller company. Okay, so this new law would weaken the safe harbors, putting unnecessary burden on internet companies. I'm okay with that, actually. Again, hosting technology is a burden. There's no doubt about that. Online sex workers argue that the bill would harm their safety as the platforms they use to offer and discuss their services had begun to reduce their services or shut down entirely because of the bill's threat of liability. Since this law has passed, sex workers have reported economic instability and increases in violence as had been predicted. Marie, thank you so much for stopping by and saying hello. I'm still on that cold brew kick. This is the end of the moonshine cold brew and the ice cube. Well, no, there's more ice cubes. I made you laugh. This is no laughing matter, Marie. No laughing matter at all. We're talking about our freedoms of speech here. But also, yeah, very important subject about like this conflict between okay, so the conversation started out talking about the very first law that Congress passed at the end of the 1800s. Allowing the government to determine if something's obscene and interfere with the distribution of those materials, which started out mostly being about contraceptives, birth control, fertility health. That's what was considered obscene in those days, and what they were trying to protect. But now it's expanded, right? With the internet, we need to control what's considered obscene for children and how to protect them. So there's truth to it. There's truth. I don't know, man. I'm not going to make any kind of argument here. The slippery slope. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But I'll just eat some cherries. Me and Bitcoin are over here eating some cherries. Okay, Bitcoin. Yeah, so I'm not trying to make any judgment. I just I found this article today talking about the history of the laws that have been holding back a lot of women's rights and reproductive rights. Yeah, don't worry. I'm not asking you to give your opinion in text there. Maybe next time we see each other we can talk about it. Hey Heather, welcome. It is a slippery slope. But it's one that needs to be addressed, right? And something like a recurring theme of these Constitution study groups that had started even last year was maybe the solution is not more regulation, but more intercultural activities to change the culture, to evolve the culture. I think that's a better word. Marie says we need to outlaw the profiting on human futures market, just like we outlaw child labor. Yeah. I mean, as individual parents, Heather, of course, yeah, we all have that right to do what we will do in raising our children. But you know, I've got people close in my life. I'm not a mother, so I can't talk about personal experience myself, but I have people in my life that are parents. And they are choosing a very specific lifestyle for their child that is very different than what is available in mainstream. It's not even like the simple mainstream, you know, like wanting to look like everybody else, like trying to conform to a certain standard, teaching young girls that the goal of femininity and the goal of being a woman is to be liked by boys or men. Like, those are not like obscene things at all. None of those things have been judged as obscene by the standards of these laws we're talking about today, because you see them everywhere. You see them on billboards, like all of these concepts, you see it everywhere in mainstream. And so like all children are getting exposed to those things, but then they're being taught something else very different in their home. Yeah. And the more you fight it, like as a parent, hey Robert, good to see you. As a parent, if you take the strategy, which is the strategy that I've seen most common, of like, we just won't address it. If we don't address those things, then they, you know, our kids only going to learn what we teach them, you know, because that's their perspective. In their egocentric perspective, they're thinking, okay, it's my job to raise my children. They're only going to be exposed to what I teach them. But in this current reality, that's not truth. Your kids are going to get exposed to everything. Yeah. They're going to get exposed to it either through school, through social media. I mean, if you completely remove technology from their life, maybe you can control that element on it, but I mean, I just don't see that possible. Even my most conservative parent friends with children all got their children cell phones by the time they were 12. For a good reason, because it's like safety, convenience. You want to be able to communicate with your children even when you're not together. And so yeah, they're gonna get exposed to all of that. And like, if you ignore it and you're just thinking, oh, my kid's only exposed to what I talk to them about, you're missing the mark. You're missing the mark big time. And then, you know, who are the ones? Let me see if I can find some stats. Yeah, I want to find some stats, see if the internet can provide some information. Okay, demographics of of online pornography market. Let's see who like financially supports this industry that's so bad. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I always like to see the first page that comes up when you do a search like this. So this is coming from WebRoot, an open text company. I don't know, I guess this must be like an SEO, page they put up. Oh, it's cybersecurity. This is cybersecurity. Okay, cool. So that makes sense that they're putting out data about internet porn. Yeah, maybe kindergarten is a little too young, but they're getting exposed to it. If your kindergarten's got a phone, they'll get exposed to it. So it's like it's almost better to be getting exposed together, so you know exactly what they're getting exposed to. The societal costs of pornography are staggering. The financial cost to business productivity in the U.S. alone is estimated at $16.9 billion a year. And it has like the biggest impact on the youth and in the families. According to Patrick F. Fagan, PhD psychologist and former Deputy Assistant Health and Human Services Secretary, two recent reports, one by the American Psychological Association on hypersexualized girls and the other by National Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy, on the pornographic content of phone texting among teenagers, make clear that the digital revolution is being used by younger and younger children to dismantle the barriers that channel sexuality into family life. Among adolescents, pornography hinders the development of a healthy sexuality, and among adults, it distorts sexual attitudes and social realities. This is interesting. In February 2010, so this is old news, the number of people using a work computer to visit sexually oriented websites was as high as 28%. I guess 2010, what was that? That wasn't that long ago. The companies, though, at that time were already starting to use like monitoring services to like see where their employees were going on the internet. The average visit to a pornography site from a work computer was about 13 minutes. Hey, nice little quickie. During the month, the average worker was estimated to spend 1 hour and 38 minutes on such sites. So if we leverage data extracted from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we can calculate the average earning of $23 an hour. We multiply that by that time, and we would roughly lose $38 a month per employee due to pornography use in the workplace. Multiply that by 12, and that's a yearly loss of $456. The number of U.S. employees is 132 million. If we divide that by 28%, 37 million employees view pornography in the workplace. Thus, if 37 million employees are viewing at that amount, that's $16.9 billion a year. So that's where that number came from. A lot of math. Hey, Gabby. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. We're talking about something serious, but then also... Oh yeah, Maria Ray says, when you compare Google and Pornhub reached a bigger money faster. Yeah. I mean, because sex sells, and as like, even if like you don't address this stuff with a kindergarten, like granted, kindergartner is probably too young. But you're going to be giving a cell phone to a 12-year-old and telling them, okay, this is for you to contact when you need a ride and emergencies only. Like, I don't think so. Like, they're going to get exposed to all of this, and if you don't talk to them about it, you know, instead you're like trying to go to the Supreme Court to like fight some legal battle, there's money involved. Yeah, you're right, Gabby. Yeah, now they do. But they don't have to. There's a lot of parts in the world where tits and ass don't sell. They make people feel uncomfortable. Oh man, there's some weird numbers. Okay, let's just, every second, 28,258 users are watching pornography on the internet. Right now. In that second, 28,000. Oof. And in that second, $3,075.64 is spent. That's the amount of money made. Every day, 37 pornographic videos are created in the U.S. I'm pretty sure it's more than that. This article's old, though. Here's Marie. 68 million search queries related to pornography. 25% of total searches are generated. 25% of total Google searches are related to pornography? Damn. And I won't even talk about the child pornography, because that's not what we're talking about. No. Like, let's just talk about normal porn. Let's let's give it the benefit of the doubt and say that this is all very ethical porn, you know, which others may find obscene. And that's what we're talking about here, is like everybody's going to have different boundaries and barriers of what they're going to think is obscene. Remember, this whole conversation started because in 1876, somebody thought that contraceptives were obscene, and they wanted to use this law to, you know, control people's rights. But now it's a big argument on the internet and a good argument. Like, it's important for us to be talking about this. 1/3 of porn viewers are women. About 200,000 Americans are classified as porn addicts. Here's how it hurts teens. It increases the odds of teenage pregnancy. I don't know. That's a stretch. It hinders sexual development. Which I do understand that. It raises the risk of depression. Yes. Understand that. It creates a distorted expectations which hinder healthy sexual development. Yes. Those are all true. The teenage pregnancy thing, I don't know. Yeah, you're right, Heather. If, like, as children, we can develop a healthy sexuality, you know, into adulthood, we ideally should be carrying that healthy sexuality there. Things can change, of course. It's not... You know what? That could be the thing with teenage pregnancy as well as with STDs is that, and I've heard a couple of online sex workers talk about this, is how important it is for the industry that no one uses protection. Or in regards to contraceptives, no one is talking about, you know, the contraceptives that they use, because I'm pretty sure women are taking care of that, or even the men. You know, the men could be getting vasectomies, the actors, and taking care of that, but that's not like a part of the education in that content. And condoms are frowned upon in the sex industry. maybe not in the real life sex industry, but in the online, like, virtual sex industry, they're really frowned upon because they don't look good. You know, so that if you're a kid learning about your sexuality through that content, then yeah, you're definitely not going to be prioritizing protection, which does, you know, affect pregnancy. That's why it should be a part of it. According to National Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families of 2010, 47% of families in the U.S. reported that pornography is a problem in their home. Pornography use increases the marital infidelity rate by more than 300%. But I wanted to know the actual numbers. This is from last month. These are the updated numbers. I mean, it seems that seems to be a trend when you search these types of pages. It's all about, like, underage, like the effect this industry has on the underage. Yeah, it's become mainstream entertainment in our society. And as a parent, if you just ignore that and just try to, you know, like, let's not talk about it with the kids. Like, they don't need to know about it. They're gonna know. They're gonna get exposed. Oh, that's interesting, Marie. Marie says healthy sexuality is not good for consumers. It's not good for business, yeah. Because then, you know, people would be having all this, like, self-confidence and, like, love for themselves, and they wouldn't feel the need to, like, accumulate property. It's true. According to a national representative survey, 84.4% of 14 to 18-year-old males and 57% of 14 to 18-year-old females have viewed pornography. Hey, Cody. Thanks for stopping by, saying hello. It's good to see you. Yeah, we're talking about obscene things. Right now, we're specifically talking about obscene content on the internet and different laws that have been put into place to protect that obscene content. And really, you know, this is very relevant, you know, not only for today's topic, but, you know, on TikTok, there's a lot of talk today. Somebody posted a video of them trying to put Black Lives Matter into their bio of their creator marketplace profile. And it, like, won't allow it. But then you can put, like, white pride, or you can put other terms in, and that's not censored. And so this is an example of a service provider that's, like, creating their own censorship protocol, or their own standard of what is obscene. This is the one. I'll read this thing. The three-pronged test. This was an article we were reading earlier. So this was what the government was enforcing back in the, when was this? Back in the 50s and 60s to determine if something was obscene. And now it's like the TikTok in particular, because TikTok has a lot of kids there. And so, you know, they do want to make sure they protect things and never get, you know, too far down a hole of obscenity. But I'll tell you what, like, a 10-year-old dancing the way that, you know, the dances are on TikTok, I that could be deemed more obscene than somebody having Black Lives Matter in their profile, for sure. But anyway, Here's a three-prong test that was enforced back in the 1950s with these laws. So the first thing is whether the average person applying contemporary community standards would find that the work taken as a whole appeals to the prurient's interest. And prurient means like over-sexualization, or what society considers to be over-sexualized. The second is whether the work depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual contact specifically defined by the applicable state law. So this is kind of a subjective state-by-state type of description of what is patently offensive sexual conduct. And then the third is whether the work taken as a whole lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. And so as long as all three of those are met, you could say this is objectively obscene. And there are laws in place. There are laws in place that it is illegal to distribute obscene materials. How the porn sites stay open, that's what we're discussing right now, is like these laws, this three-pronged rule for defining something was obscene was first put into place to outlaw contraceptives. Like that's what they were saying. Oh, your right, your freedom to your fertility rights is out. You're right, Heather. All social medias do it. Yeah, baseball has their baseball. That's a new one. I don't know. Was I thinking of Spaceballs? I probably was. I had like Spaceballs on my mind. Like Facebook has their own community guidelines. Twitter has theirs. Speaking of, our old president, and I mean old in both ways, used to be president, and he's an old man, old cranky old man, is suing Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, Spaceballs. Baseballs! Did you post it on Baseballs? Yeah, you're right. They all have. Yeah, fucking the old president is suing, which is kind of ironic because it's like he was the one to last sign one of these laws that like gives the right to a platform to do their own policing of like what's obscene or not obscene. Marie says, but in regards to healthy sexuality affecting consumerism, by making one feel like an inadequate, non-viable reproductive candidate are the best for consumers. Cody says, well, isn't TikTok by a Chinese company? Yes, they are. Didn't China have a lot of pull on our media around the election time to try and sway it? I believe so. Yeah, I mean, TikTok's got a lot of pull. TikTok has a lot of pull. But a lot of really cool shit is going on TikTok. So, like, I know, you know, like, there's some corrupt things going on. There's, like, weird things. Like, weird censorship stuff going on with TikTok that's just, like, so all over the place. But at the same time, its algorithm and Instagram, you know, has recently made an announcement that they're going to be implementing some features to give the algorithm similar, which means that content can be better distributed, meaningful content. And in the case of TikTok, this is like in lots of forms. I mean, this could be just, you know, a little kid in their bedroom doing a dance to like an adult that has a very important story that can inspire a lot of cultural change, right? And if you're that type of content creator and you go onto Facebook or you go onto Twitter and just put that out there, it is not very likely that, not without a past, you know, decade of content creation and community building, for that content to get to the right audience, right? But on TikTok, you can do that. Like one day you can go on, put out the content, and it's in the right places by the next day. And that's pretty magical. That is super empowering, super duper empowering. But with that comes this additional responsibility of like oh shit, content can go far here. Unvetted content can go far here, right? So they have, I understand why their community guidelines are a little bit deeper, but there needs to be a lot of work done there. A lot of work. But there's a lot of like anti-racist rhetoric, decolonization, storytelling that's happening there. And a lot of these creators just started doing this activism work, 6 months ago, right? Because it wasn't so cool to do this kind of activism work, prior to. And so that's good. But, yeah, I don't know. I think there's like a petition going around with the content I saw this morning around the guy that couldn't get Black Lives Matter into his bio. Sorry, I'm still eating my cherries. My big one, we'll skip this one. This is the last of the cherries. Bye, Cody. So much love. Thanks for stopping by. So much love. Oh, cute, Marie. I like that. Cute. Cute cherries. Yeah. So Heather says that she believes 9 out of 10 parents that she knows are open with their kids of talking about these things. I don't know. Not a whole lot of my like Peace Corps and my like adult friends that I've made have children. Most of my network and my community that have children are either from, really young age, or their family, or they're older than me. And so maybe they're not as hip to like how accessible the internet is for children. But I would say that like not even 50% of the parents that I know personally are proactive. Very conservative. Very conservative. So much conservative that I've even been reprimanded for talking about certain things. And certain things that I've said have been considered obscene. And you hear me talking here. This is how I talk. And I feel like even talking about this stuff with a teenager is completely appropriate. Completely appropriate. But I've been shushed. I've been told, you're exposing my kids to too much. I'm like, okay, not for me. Well, it's very obvious that, they're getting exposed to things. Sometimes even at their own school, Hey, what's up? Hello from Germany. How are you doing? Good to see you. I'm friends with your, we have a mutual friend in Germany, Thomas. He just moved to Cologne though. But Thomas from Paper and Tea. I met him on Twitch. We do live streaming on Twitch together. Although he doesn't make it to my stream too often because it's late. It's late for you. What are you doing hanging out on Instagram? You should be in bed. You should be in bed. Well, you were in bed. I woke you up. I'm sorry. We missed you at the World Tea Expo. We would have had a lot of fun there. There's a lot of alcohol. A lot of alcohol. Talking about obscene, I just posted a video to Instagram and to TikTok of making a matcha cocktail on the floor with this little, oh, I should go get it. I still have it. It was this little sperm bottle. A little bottle, it's like a little sperm. I put the matcha in there and just shook it until it came all together, and it was actually really good. It was really good. That was kind of obscene, right? Like, what's the line? Like, what's the fucking line between this is legitimately obscene? Like, you know, an 11-year-old could see that video I posted. They're probably not going to understand what it is, but, you know, they could get offended by it. They really could. What's the line between, oh, it was a joke, it was a funny adult humor thing, versus this is obscene for children to get exposed to? I mean, with pornography, it's a bit more clear cut, but yeah, you should go check it out. It's funny. It was a good drink. We drink a lot of good drinks. Actually, I took a bunch of matcha in. I was giving matcha out to a lot of the booths just so they could get access to ceremonial grade matcha and just know what it tastes like and what it's like. But I was also making drinks on the floor. I just had a bottle. I made matcha and was just adding it into the cocktails or the different spirits they were sampling, and some of them came out really good. Like, matcha with everything tastes pretty good. The tequila, we had it with some rum. It was really good. A coconut rum, and then there was like a cream bourbon. That was the best one. The cream bourbon with added matcha. It tasted better than any matcha latte I've ever had. It was good. Lots of good things. Oh, that's good. This with the cherries, so I just finished eating all these cherries. I took a swig of this one, the moonshine, the green tea from Nepal. It's really a good combo. Nice combo. Oh yeah, Heather. Hey Heather, by the way, later tonight, in about 4 hours, 3.5 hours, we'll be doing another one of those practicing safe sex conversations that I stream. So you can watch it again from Facebook and put in your comments. Remember that was, we were talking with those two psychology PhDs that build like AI algorithms to address different social issues. We'll be hanging out with them again tonight at 9 Pacific. It will begin. If you want, you can join the actual conversation. You can come into the virtual chat and hang out with us. Or you can just hang out and chat as well. You're welcome to go on your way. But yeah, that's today. So we do it every 2 weeks. So it's not like every week, but every 2 weeks. I always look forward to it. Really intelligent conversation that happens. Much more intelligent than me sitting here by myself talking to myself. Well, I'm talking to all of you all. You all have very good commentary and information to offer to the conversation. But we will, I believe, I don't think that like an actual agenda has been sent out to the group. Yeah, I hope to see you next year too. Maybe I'll come visit you in Germany before that happens. I'll reach out to you if I decide to do that. Oh, thank you, Heather. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. Got my new background now. It's cool. It's like with the wind blowing in it, it's kind of dynamic, you know. Kind of dynamic. Moving constantly. I'll let you know. I would love to see you. I want to, go see. I'm located in Las Vegas, Nevada. So if you ever come through Las Vegas, please visit my tea room. I don't have like a service point. I do have a retail tea room and take appointments to taste tea together. And you can see my studio as well as all the other stuff I have. You have a lot of stuff here. Oh, you're in Tahoe. You're not that far away. Yeah, I've got a friend in Tahoe. He's like begging me to go start a tea room in Tahoe. Hey, Butterfly. Hey, where is he specifically? I forget where he is. But he's on the Nevada side. Yeah, you take a break from the snow there. I'm sure it's beautiful weather for you now in the next few months. It's hot here. So yeah, I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna reset everything, and then I'll be streaming again in a few hours with the fellas from Practicing Safe Sex. And yes, I think we're gonna be talking about fragility, specifically white fragility, and how that psychology is affecting social dynamics. And these guys are like experts on sentiment from the internet. So it'd be really interesting to hear their perspective and their past research on the concepts of white fragility. So hopefully we'll see you there. But thanks for hanging out. Marie, thanks for hanging out. I hope you had a good time with Jeremy there in Albuquerque. Showed him a good time. If he's still there, tell him I said hello. And good luck on the rest of his journey. I'm sure he's left already, actually. He probably wanted to hit the road and get to... I think he's trying to get to St. Louis by tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, so he's still got some time. All right, see ya, Heather. Thank you. Much love. All right. Bye, Marie. See ya. Heck yeah. All right. Bye. TikTok. 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 Alright, I think I'm just gonna end the stream. I don't think I have anybody hanging out streaming right now. Oh, you know what? We should go to See the Spy. See the Spy, the food scientist. Let's just go visit him because I don't get to read him very often. He's looking at apple pie. We'll go learn about apple pie with him.